It is a few minutes past the time that we've selected to start this program, and as I usually like to get everyone in and out in an hour, this ought to be with only a short number of us here, a few number of us here. We ought to be able to do this in pretty easy spiel here. My name is Dr. Mike Searcy. For those of you who don't know me, I teach communication here at Somerset Community College at both the main campus, online, hybrid, ITB, and at the McCreary Center. Public speaking is something I've been teaching for about 20 years now, and one of the things that I think we find when we talk to people about public speaking and giving a presentation for any purpose or any occasion is we find that there are some tricks that we need to pay attention to. The impetus for this particular workshop came because a number of the various other professors from other disciplines came to me and said, "You want to know something? I've noticed in the last year that when I ask my students to give a presentation, what they're doing is writing their entire presentation out on PowerPoint slides, script word for word, turning their back to the audience, staring at the PowerPoint, and just reading the PowerPoint slides." And that's usually followed by a number of teachers saying, "If I have to listen to one more of those, I'm going to scream." So I thought at this point, let's go ahead and do something where we can look at some tips, tricks, and hints for how to produce a presentation from whatever class we might be looking at, wherever we're headed, and however we're going about doing it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. If you look at the booklet that I've given you at this point, let's look at page 2. One of the ways that I often talk about giving a good presentation is starting in any presentation with the possibility of a quote. The possibility of a quote. Somebody who is interesting, somebody who is well known, somebody who might be considered either motivational or an expert in a field where they have a tendency to foreshadow or echo what we're talking about. And if you've noticed a number of my workshops, we start almost every one of them with quotes from various people or experts in the field or very famous people about the kinds of things that we're talking about. No different here. Let's look at page 2 when we talk about presentations. Dale Carnegie, who was a very famous motivational speaker and trainer, once said that there are always 3 speeches for every one you actually gave. The one you practiced, or the one you gave, and the one you wish you gave. Now, isn't that true? We practice something and we expect it to go a certain way. We envision it somehow. We actually get up and we present something. And then we sit back down and we replay it in our heads, going over all the points in it that we wish we had done different. There are always 3. And like I tell a number of my students who are asking me all the time about assistance with their papers and rewriting things, they always tell me it can always be better. I want to fix this. I want to make it better. My response is always, papers are never done, they're just due. Speeches are never done. Presentations are never done. They're just due. There's always something you can do to make it better. And in fact, we ought to think about that because we often talk in terms of the perfect speech. Is there such a thing as a perfect speech? The answer to that question is a resounding no. There's no such thing as a perfect speech. But there is indeed such thing as an effective speech. And we aim for effectiveness, not for perfection. Secondly, in making a speech, second quote on that page, in making a speech, one must study 3 points. First, the means of producing persuasion. Second, the language. Third, the proper arrangement of the various parts of speech. Aristotle said this. When Aristotle is talking about rhetoric, and rhetoric is simply defined as what we say and how we say it, he's talking about actually crafting the words as expertly as we can and crafting the appeals we have to our audience in order to persuade them. And you might be thinking, some of my speeches are not here designed to be persuasive. Of course they're not. And yet, every word you use, every adjective you choose, every adverb you articulate, you are indeed being persuasive. Some people will have very positive reactions to a word. Other people will have negative reactions to a word. And that affects how they feel about your entire message. So we must study the means of producing persuasion. What are we going to appeal and how are we going to appeal to the audience? The language we intend to use and the arrangement of the various parts of speech. And that can be as simple as, are we speaking English in its proper grammatical form? Now, is that persuasive or can that turn people off? The answer to that question really depends on the community who encompasses your audience. If your audience speaks very plainly, so should you. An analysis, for instance, was done on the presidential campaign, if you can think this far back, between John Kerry and George Bush. And the reason why the analysis was suggested, one of the reasons why the analysis was suggested, through the analysis, it was suggested that George Bush won that campaign. Of course, hindsight is 20/20. Is that George Bush spoke in very plain, simple language. Now, we might credit him, we might credit his speechwriters. Either way, it doesn't matter. But on the other hand, on the flip side, John Kerry, who's a very intelligent man, spoke in with very large vocabulary, very, 3 and 4 syllable words as often as he could, and he proved to the world that he was an incredibly intelligent human being. But his audience felt he wasn't relatable. We must consider the language and the parts of speech and how we put it together. Preparation is key, isn't it? That third quote here. It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech. Mark Twain. What's an impromptu speech? Do you know?
Spur of the moment.
Spur of the moment. Something that is thought up at the time that you're getting up to give the presentation. Now, rarely does anyone ask you to give a speech about something you don't know about. So when we talk about impromptu, we're actually talking about getting up and speaking about something that we should already have a sufficient amount of knowledge. And so we do. But we shouldn't necessarily unless we've given it some forethought and some preparation. Mark Twain is actually suggesting just that. And all the time that you've spent in your life developing, gathering, collecting, said knowledge and experience about a particular topic, you have that opportunity to prepare and talk about, well, how would I talk about this? Am I talking about this? Because every time we open our mouths and have a conversation with someone, we are indeed presenting impromptu. But if I'm going to do this more formally, it's best that I'm prepared. And finally, Hillary Clinton said, you can't just give a speech and expect people to fall down and agree with you. I think that speaks for itself with respect to the need for preparation. Public speaking, giving presentations, is culturally defined. It's culturally bound. And if you look at page 3 here, for instance, cultures present a pool of core beliefs, attitudes, and values. And when we speak, how we speak, and what specific topics we speak about, it's all culturally defined. There are things that we just don't talk about in public. This is taboo. And from one culture to another culture, that might change that list of topics. There are some things in the United States, for instance, in many Western cultures, it is considered proper form and good skill development that when we actually are presenting, we are using hand gestures. And in some cultures, that's considered distracting from the message and you shouldn't be using them at all. Goes back to my comment that there is no such thing as a perfect speech, only an effective one. Because if I'm going to be presenting in one culture, and if it's broadcast, for instance, to people of another culture, they may not like what they have to see and how we actually are looking at things. A culture's available technology greatly affects how its members create and exchange messages. Available technology. Here we're talking about, when I give presentations, what technology is specifically available to us. It might be a PowerPoint presentation if I'm looking at electronics. It might be how I give the presentation. It might be handouts and things of this nature. But how I actually use the technology also relates in how I'm able to relate the message. Somebody asked me once, why for all these workshops are you giving workbooks out? And the answer isn't because I'm afraid of technology. It's because I never know what room I'm going to be giving them in and what technology may or may not be there and or working at the time. And so when I go to the various places to give these workshops and I've got these workbooks, it's a whole lot easier to say, turn to page 2 than, boy, I wish I had this slide, but it's just not working. And since you don't have equipment here for me, and I didn't bring my equipment, we're just going to talk about it and hope you can follow along. Okay? Available technology greatly affects how its members create and exchange messages. Cultures vary not only in the value they place on expressiveness and explicitness, but also in their expectations regarding the who, the how, and the what of public speaking. Again, same thing we just talked about. How expressive can I get up here in front of a group in Western cultures, and how accepted is that going to be versus more stoic, somber cultures where when you're out in public you're expected to be much more formal. That can be tough. And trying to gauge that sometimes is very difficult to think about. Let's look at page 4. Now, of course, we've talked about before that whenever they do the surveys, and there's a company that does these surveys on a very regular basis, and they actually go over people's greatest fears. Where does public speaking typically lie? Up there, yes. Number 1 or number 2? They have a tendency to switch. And you know, oddly enough, they always switch with the same other fear. You know what that other fear is? People's greatest fears. Public speaking and or dying. Dying. Now, that's not really a related concept unless you're actually asked to give your own eulogy. But when we talk about the fact that public speaking is that intense, let me talk a minute about how we actually get to that point of public speaking and its intensity. First off, are we taught to be fearful in public and fearful to get up and give a presentation? Or do you suppose it's instinctual? Now, I'm going to contend to you that this is a taught thing. And it's taught to us by people who love us. Think about this for a moment. Perhaps the first time you were asked to give a public presentation was when you were in kindergarten, preschool, first grade, or right about there. And your teacher said to you, boys and girls, we'd like you to come to school tomorrow or the next day or the next meeting or this, on this schedule. We want you to bring your favorite toy from home or your favorite piece of sports equipment or item or whatever it is. We'd like you to come and share it with the class. That's exciting. You get to go and bring whatever it is that's your favorite item at home and share it with your friends at school. What an exciting concept. And you go home and you tell your brother, your older brother, aunt, uncle, cousin, sister, mother, father, grandparent, whoever probably is your primary guardian, and you tell them, guess what I get to do? I get to go, and we're going to call it, maybe you use the word show and tell, maybe you didn't, but I get to go and show and tell. I get to bring my favorite toy, and I get to share it with the class. And your mother or your father, whoever it is, looks at you and goes, oh boy. And then they tell you the story about their last experience giving a speech. while they were giving a speech, they perhaps, as an example, stood up in front of a group of people, and while they were giving their speech, they were relaying a message, but the physical manifestations of their speech anxiety were such that it caused them to have a little bit of paper shake. And perhaps most of you didn't even realize I was shaking this paper until I pointed it out. Because does it distract from the message? Not really. And yet, the person giving the presentation noticed it. And it struck them very profoundly. And they're just sure, because they were self-conscious about it, everybody else was staring at them. And paper shake. Then, we talked about what Dale Carnegie said, that there are 3 kinds of speeches, right? The one you practiced, the one you gave, and the one you wish you gave, right? You finish that speech, you sit down, and now you're running it again in your head. And that paper shake, the next time you run it through your head, it wasn't this, it was this. And that paper shake, you run it through your head 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 more times. And then we get to hundreds of times looking this over, and then we get to the child coming to you saying, guess what, I get to give a show and tell presentation, isn't this exciting? And you tell the story about how you had an epileptic fit and fell over in front of an entire audience. And have implanted this into the memory and the programming of the heads of each person that you say the story, you repeat the story to. It's self-perpetuating. Because now the child is sitting here thinking about, well, if mom or dad or big brother or big sister or grandma or grandpa, whoever it was, couldn't do this, what in the world makes anyone think that I can? And we know that words are the program to the computer of the mind. And we know that the mind will process action far more quickly than it will process negation. If I tell you you can do anything you want right now for the next hour, just don't think of an apple. The likelihood is, most of you, something that represents apple, whether it was a red, green, yellow piece of fruit, whether it was a computer, or something that might represent apple, flew through your head, and then you went, oh, wait a minute, you said don't. Orange, 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 orange. So when I say to myself, and I'm programming this to myself, and I say to myself, don't be nervous, don't be nervous, don't be nervous, what am I programming myself to be? Nervous, aren't I? The words we use have a tendency to program our mind, and our mind, as we well know, can control our physiology. So when we talk about confidence building, page 4, the challenge. Anticipatory speech anxiety is the tension experienced at the mere thought of giving a speech. Well, now we have some idea, perhaps, of where those mere thoughts have originated from. So what's the solution? Preparation. Studying speech principles, observing others speak, and actually speaking yourself can remove some of the mystery from the process. As speech making becomes more familiar, most people experience less process anxiety and the panicky feelings that accompany it. So how do we overcome process anxiety? Well, first thing we might do is consider the audience and the setting. Consider the audience and the setting. You know, when I first started singing in a choir, somebody said to me, because I was nervous, and somebody said to me, unless somebody runs up to take your place, you're doing fine. Now think about that for a moment. If we already know that there's only a small percentage of the population who isn't afraid of speaking in public, and this is the percentage of the population I'm likely to be speaking to and addressing, where's the fear in that? Because I'm actually getting up and doing something. No one's going to be racing up to kick me off the stage. Consider the audience and the setting. Practice with that audience and practice with that setting. Choose a topic of something that you're aware of. Identify your purpose. Here we're talking about preparation. If you know exactly why you're up here, you know exactly what you're doing and what you're wanting to accomplish, it can become a whole lot easier. Gather your materials, of course. Organize those materials. And, you know, we often talk about there should be 3 parts of every speech. I'm going to add a 4th. An introduction, a body, and a conclusion. That 4th one, I think, is the most important. Connecting your ideas. Every audience member is often coming to a presentation asking themselves one very important question. What the heck does what you have to say have anything to do with me? Connect your ideas. Why is it important for this audience? Go back over those details once you put your presentation together. Choose vocabulary and grammar that fit both the occasion and the audience. Omit offensive language, such as swear words or demeaning language. Choose understandable words for your particular audience. And minimize slang expressions. How about overcoming performance? We talked about process anxiety. How about overcoming performance anxiety? And that comes in 2 kinds, 2 forms. Pardon me. Physiological anxiety, and this is where the body actually responds to that feared event. You start maybe to sweat. Your heart starts to race a little bit. You get butterflies in your stomach. Or psychological anxiety. This is what we might call worry, dread, the feelings of inadequacy about the performance itself. So how do we take care of this? Make eye contact. And here's a secret. Here's a secret. First off, make sure you've got one friendly person minimum in the audience who you don't mind making eye contact with. Then, if you're really nervous about making eye contact with anyone else, you want to fool your public speaking teachers, don't look at them in the eye, look at their ears. Nobody can tell that you're not looking at them in the eye. Now, the problem comes with what? When people wear some really fancy earrings, and that might be distracting. Right, Judy? Okay. Make sure you have a pleasant expression. If you're not dynamically enthused and interested seriously in your own topic and show it, how can you expect your audience to have any interest whatsoever? Have a pleasant expression. Show your audience that you want to be there. Because if you don't want to be there, they don't want to be there either. Avoid a monotone voice. If I'm talking like this the entire presentation, the likelihood is I'm going to be the cure for your insomnia, not for your education. Smile appropriately. Don't talk about a funeral or disaster and smile. There are appropriate opportunities to smile. Do so. Have a posture of confidence. Own the place. Even if it means getting to the classroom or the location early and practice standing up there, standing at the podium. Practice getting up and going to the podium. Own the place. And know that you've owned the place. And practice is all that's about. Use appropriate gestures. Speak conversationally. A heightened conversational tone is more preferred for public presentations in Western cultures than a formalized tone as if you're reading from an academic journal. And observe your time limits. That's the physical practice. How about the psychological practice? 1, plan a compelling introduction. Quote statistics, stories. Plan something in your introduction that will capture people's attention because you know once you have their attention, they're listening. And that's a very large part of it from the very beginning. Volunteer to go first. Because let's face it, if there's more than one presentation, it's a whole lot easier to get up, start going first because you're not thinking about, oh, I've got to be as good as the 3 people I just saw in front of me. and your butterflies go away that much quicker. Use appropriate visual aids, especially at the start of your speech. Again, why? Because I'm capturing your attention, and if I really have a problem with people looking at me, they're looking at your visual aid. Deliver your introduction from notes, rather than reading it or reciting a memorized text. Can people tell when you're reading? Absolutely. Can people tell when you're doing a memorized text? Usually. Keyword outlines are best, and speak. Let the words come at the time of delivery. This is an impromptu presentation. Let the words come at the time of delivery, but you practice talking about those topics 1,000 times. Control your internal monologue and use visualization. We've talked about that internal monologue. What are you saying to yourself? Don't be nervous. Don't screw up. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping yourself. To that end, I want to go through an exercise that I've often done with my students and when I've done consulting work with people who have serious speech anxiety issues. What I want you to do is actually kind of shift around and get as comfortable as you can in your chair. We're going to try a visualization exercise now. And once you've shifted around and gotten very comfortable in your chair, I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. I want you to take a deep breath in and breathe out. In and out. Continue to breathe deeply, slowly, and comfortably. I'm going to count down now from 10 to 1. As I say each number, you can become more relaxed. Let's begin. 10. Feeling your muscles start to relax. 9. Your hands and feet are warming and relaxing. 8. Your muscles are becoming loose and heavy. 7. Notice your attention drifting, becoming more relaxed. 6. Relaxing even further now. Peaceful. 5. A tingly feeling of relaxation spreading through your body, pleasant and relaxed. 4. Further relaxed and peaceful. 3. Free of tension. 2. Almost completely relaxed now. 1. You are now deeply relaxed. Very deeply relaxed and comfortable. Allow this feeling of relaxation to grow. Becoming even more relaxed, calm, and peaceful. Keep with you the feeling of relaxation as you think about public speaking. Notice your reaction, physically and emotionally, to the concept of public speaking. Perhaps in the past, this has been a source of anxiety for you. Notice now how you can be relaxed and calm while thinking about public speaking. Calm and relaxed. Peaceful and relaxed. In the future, you will know that the symptoms you may experience when faced with public speaking indicate excitement. This is a positive feeling, filling you with energy. The thought of speaking in front of people fills you with good feelings of excitement and anticipation. You may even be feeling a bit excited now, just thinking about public speaking. Let this feeling subside as you return to a state of deep relaxation. Take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. Breathe in and out. In and out. Continue to breathe deeply, noticing how you relax a bit each time more you exhale. Breathe in and relax, breathing out. Keep breathing slowly and calmly. You can relax like this anytime you need to. Whenever you want to calm down, you can breathe deeply and relax. Now let's begin a guided imagery exercise to allow you to imagine successfully speaking in public and enjoying the positive experience. In this visualization, imagine that everything goes perfectly. Imagine what it would be like to be the most confident, best speaker in the world. Create an image in your mind, an image of an excellent public speaker. Imagine a confident, well-spoken person. See that this person is you. Picture yourself as a superb public speaker. Begin to create a mental picture of yourself preparing to give a speech. Imagine that you are preparing in advance to speak. You are feeling confident, excited. You're looking forward to speaking because you are well prepared. After your focused preparation, you are ready to speak. When the day arrives for you to do public speaking, you are excited, eager to begin. You feel good, alive, energetic. You feel prepared, excited, and ready. Now imagine going to the location where you will speak. See yourself looking forward to speaking. You are excited, eager to talk in public. You can't wait to share your knowledge. You know the topics you will cover easily and know that they will come to you exactly as you need them. Picture entering the location where you will speak. Maybe it's an auditorium or another place. Many people are gathered to see you. You love it. They can't wait to hear what you are going to say, and you can't wait to tell them. You see friendly, smiling, supportive faces waiting for your presentation. Now imagine getting up to the front of the room, ready to speak. Your audience waits expectantly. Picture all the details of the scene. See yourself standing at the front of the room, feeling confident. See the people in front of you, waiting to hear you speak. You are confident, you are excited, and happy to begin. Now imagine yourself beginning your speech, confident. Your phrases and words are all well-timed. All throughout your speech, you are breathing calmly and deeply, pausing between each sentence. You maintain a comfortable, smooth rhythm. You talk with smooth, clear speech. Ideas flow. Your hard work and extensive preparation allow your public speaking to be easy, automatic, perfect. Everything seems so familiar. It is such a great, easy feeling. The dynamic enthusiasm is flowing from you, and all can feel your energy. Now imagine giving your speech. See yourself as you enjoy this moment. You are confident, comfortable, and having a great time. The anticipatory excitement you felt at the beginning has smoothed into a feeling of confidence and calm. You feel so at home in front of all these people. They listen, enjoying hearing you speak as much as you are enjoying speaking. And you enjoy this experience immensely. When you reach your conclusion and speak the final words of your prepared speech, imagine giving the audience time to ask questions. You answer every question easily and proficiently. See your excellent answers satisfying each member of the audience. The audience is pleased with your performance. You are pleased with your performance. The exhilaration at having completed this public speaking fills you with happiness, contentment, and pride. It feels great to have done this. You are a little bit disappointed it is over because you enjoyed it so much. Notice how you can feel confident and calm when doing public speaking. This includes giving prepared speeches, responding to questions, talking spontaneously to strangers. You are skilled and able to do any sort of public speaking. You are able to relax before, during, or after your speech. You are confident and assertive. Practicing this visualization in your mind is like performing actual public speaking. If you are able to do this visualization and be calm, you can also speak in public calmly. Congratulate yourself for completing this challenge. Now that you have completed this public speaking guided imagery, take a few moments to reawaken your mind and body, gradually becoming more alert. I'll count to 5. When I reach 5, you will be fully awake and feeling calm and energized. 1, becoming more awake and alert. 2, feeling your mind and body reawaken. 3, move your muscles a little. 4, almost completely awake now. 5, feeling full of energy and refreshed. If you look at page 6, the bottom, and the top of page 7, you have space in here to work on your own time, on your own internal monologue and visualization. It's a good opportunity for you to do just that. If you find that a visualization like this works, and you felt good in doing this, this is the kind of visualization you ought to practice before you get up to give an interview, before you get up to give a presentation, before you're actually doing any sort of presentations. Preparation and visualization. If the mind already believes you've done it and it has been successful, the actual doing of it is a process that is a foregone conclusion. And this is your opportunity to do that. Let's look at the bottom of page 7 when we talk about topic selection and what I call sharpening the saw. If, for example, I want to write about or speak about the world of work, there's all kinds of things that we talk about work that I might talk about. So mind mapping is a really great way of putting your thoughts on paper, outlining them, and coming up with a good idea. The world of work. Well, there's getting a job. There's workplace design. There's family businesses. There's relationships at work. There are various trends in the workplace. Here's your opportunity to actually kind of jot all these things down and look at what do I really know about these to fill, so I need to know what I need to do to fill in the gaps if I decide to go with that particular topic. It's a great idea. Page 8. My general purposes. Why am I giving this speech? You need to ask yourself these questions. Why am I giving this presentation? To whom and for what purpose? Is it to inform them about something, to entertain, to persuade, to commemorate? And if that's the case, can I take the topics from my first mind map and fill in the blanks here? I sure can. So to inform, workplace negotiations and regulations, good listening skills, corporate social responsibility. To entertain, colorful labor leaders, working with quirky bosses, emails not to send. There's all kinds of things that you can do with these purposes. To persuade, buy fair trade products, support your local businesses. To commemorate, honor an employee of the month, a tribute to the founder, things like this. You should write out a thesis statement. No matter what you're doing, you should write out a thesis statement so that you have a very, very clear picture of what you're trying to relate. Write a preview of the major ideas you will develop in the speech, and those things might include empirical facts, which is data verifiable by observation, established facts, data verified consistently by many observers, definitions. These are meanings and terms generally accepted in common usage. Most people look up definitions in dictionaries or thesauruses, but that's not usually the best use of a definition in a presentation in a speech. Your best use is really to quote an expert who has defined it for the purposes closer to what you're trying to do with it. Examples. You can use all kinds of examples, real examples, hypothetical examples for sensitive topics, brief examples if you want to combine various numbers of them. Emotional connections with extended examples are often great. A long example telling a good story about somebody who pulls at the heartstrings that we can relate to is usually a really good pathos and emotional appeal. In a culture where visuals are everywhere, page 9, speakers and audiences often use evidence contained in pictures, images, and symbols as support for their ideas. And as you can see here, there are a number of those things that we talk about. Images are literal or metaphorical. We should quote culturally accepted experts. Don't just quote people because they happen to exist. Don't just quote it because somebody put it on a blog on the internet. Culturally accepted experts. We should quote credible peers or lay people. What makes this person saying this credible? Quote sayings, proverbs, and words of wisdom. You can provide account, choose statistics with a critical eye, because lots of people put a lot of statistics up that, quite frankly, don't make a whole lot of sense, or they didn't really put up with research. They just decided to cite a statistic. And I'm thinking primarily of Facebook. We see all kinds of statistics up there that have absolutely no bearing in fact. Use visual aids to clarify numerical data. All right, let's skip down on page 9 to presentation technology. We have lots of ways we can actually do visual aids, right? And we have lots of technology that we can do. And I want to talk a little bit about PowerPoint or electronic slideshow presentations. And here I'm referring to the possibility of what I refer to as PowerPoint poisoning. Be very careful, as we talked about before, that you're not trying to use 900 slides in a 20-minute presentation where you're constantly flipping through and you're reading, your entire presentation is you reading off the slides. Because most people in your audience are going to look at this and go, couldn't you just send it to me? What did you have to add if all your presentation was your visual aid? Be very careful that what you put up there are keywords and that it's legible. Guidelines for visual aids. Whatever type of audio or visual aid you choose, make sure everyone can hear or see it. Don't create a visual aid just to create a visual aid. Make sure it has a purpose and a use. Display visuals only when you discuss them. Rehearse using your visual aids. Page 10. And I've already mentioned this a couple of times. Talk to your audience, don't talk to your visual aids. Your audience is here to hear you. Your visual aids can listen to you in the privacy of your own home. Okay? Talk to your audience. Use your visual aid as an aid, not a crutch. And remember that Dr. Mike's final tip. Whenever machines are involved, have a plan B. More often than not, you're going to be overly confident, and if you're relying solely on the machine, when that doesn't work, if you haven't prepared in advance to be ready for a plan B, that's when panic sets in. Panic goes away with preparation. Any questions? Thank you.